ever scroll through your feed, like on Instagram or whatever, and see these people, these KOLs, and think, wait, they get paid for this.
Right. Like, how's that even a job?
Yeah.
It's wild. It really is a fascinating new world, isn't it? We're diving deep into the world of KOL today. Like all those YouTubers, bloggers, those podcasters, everyone really, just to figure out how they actually gain influence. Like, how does this whole online media world even function these days?
It's a good question, and we've got some seriously interesting research papers to help us unpack it all in this deep dive.
Yeah, buckle up, because it gets kind of wild.
It does. So this first paper we're looking at, it jumps right into the money part, the economics of being a KOL. They compare them to businesses, would you believe it?
Which makes sense when you think about it.
Totally. And get this, they use this example of a political commentator from Hong Kong who's absolutely killing it on Patreon. We're talking like potentially over 100 grand a month.
See, that's not just some hobby anymore, right? That's serious business.
Yeah.
But it highlights this really important point the paper makes. Just like any entrepreneur, a successful KOL needs, a unique angle. Like, they've got to stand out in a totally crowded marketplace. Think about it. Your attention span is only so long. How do you decide which online personality you're actually going to follow?
It's true. There's so much content out there. It's overwhelming. It's like you need a filter just to get through it all.
You do. And that's what this paper digs into by, breaking down these 4 main styles of political commentators, Almost like each one has their own lane. Some are diving headfirst into conspiracy theories, while others are dissecting global events through, super complex academic theories.
It's so interesting how they carve out their own niche.
Totally. Because in the end, it's about building that loyal following, those hardcore fans, or as the research calls them, super fans, the ones who connect with their unique style and their message and stick around. And this becomes even more important if that KOL faces any kind of, backlash or controversy, which they talk about with the commentator in the study. Their livelihood, their income, it all comes down to whether those core supporters stick around.
That's a really good point. So it's all about trust and being consistent, right? If someone builds their platform on a certain type of content, a certain viewpoint, their audience begins to depend on that. They want that familiar voice.
Exactly. And the research actually suggests that the more defined a KOL style is, the more dedicated their fan base tends to be. It's all about finding that niche and really, really working it.
Interesting. So we see how KOLs can become successful financially, by building that devoted fan base. But this next paper we're going to get into tackles a big question. What about the quality of the information they're sharing? I mean, it's one thing to be entertaining or whatever, but are they, being truthful, are they giving you the whole picture, all sides of the story?
Yeah, it's a good point. This is where things get kind of interesting. This paper actually starts with this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
An economist called out this well-known academic KOL based in the UK for using, get this, outdated data, about Hong Kong's economy and the UK's.
Ouch. A public call out. That's rough.
Yeah, and no, right?
Yeah.
It happens. But this little clash, it kind of brings to light this much bigger issue, like a core thing the paper's getting at.
Okay, so what's the bigger picture here?
So think about it. Back in the day, if you wanted to really get your ideas out there, reach a broad audience, you had to go through the gatekeepers, right? Newspapers, publishers, those TV execs.
Right. Standards. There was a process.
Exactly. They had these whole systems in place. Fact checkers, editors, the whole 9 yards.
But now it feels like anyone with a smartphone, an internet connection, boom, potential KOL.
Exactly. And that's amazing in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
So many voices that might not have been heard before, now they can have a platform.
For sure. But
it's not all sunshine and roses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fewer checks and balances, that's the flip side. And it can lead to what the paper calls this long tail effect.
Long tail. Okay, I feel like I've heard that somewhere, but give me a refresher.
Okay, picture a graph, right? At one end, you've got these super popular KOLs, huge platforms, maybe more resources, who knows. But then, stretching out almost like a tail, you've got everyone else, tons of them, all trying to grab some attention.
Makes sense.
So this long tail, yeah, it means more choices for you, for everyone, but the paper argues it can sometimes mean the overall average quality of information. Yeah, it might go down a bit, not always, but it's a thing to think about.
More voices don't always mean more trustworthy voices, right?
Exactly. And the paper, it doesn't let those big-time KOLs off the hook either. Remember that economist, the one calling out that academic? Well, the paper points out that even the established names, especially in economics, politics, they can get caught up in, maybe exaggerating a bit for clicks or sticking to a narrative their audience already agrees with.
Instead of giving like the full fact-check story, even if it's less exciting.
Unfortunately, yeah. And that brings us to this whole Patreon thing. I mean, it's huge now, right?
Yeah.
Fans directly supporting creators seems pretty empowering on the surface.
Absolutely.
But this next paper we're looking at, it suggests that in some cases, it might actually be like contributing to a dip in the quality of content.
Whoa, really? How so? I would think like more freedom for creators would mean better content. What's the angle there? It is kind of counterintuitive. More freedom equals like less quality. How does that even work?
Right. And look, it's not a universal rule or anything. Plenty of creators are doing incredible independent work thanks to places like Patreon. But there's this possible downside this paper digs into. Remember we were saying how important it is for KOLs to build up those super loyal fans?
They're ride or die.
Yeah. So the paper suggests that when a KOL's income depends so much on pleasing those patrons, the ones directly giving them money, well, there's this risk, right? They might start prioritizing those patrons' biases.
Interesting. Instead of giving like a broader perspective.
Exactly. Like it's scarier to maybe say something that rocks the boat, even if it's true, if it means those paying subscribers might jump ship.
Makes sense, even if it's kind of messed up. Like they're trapped in a feedback loop almost, only reinforcing what people already think.
Yeah, it's that echo chamber effect we hear about. And it's a tough balance to strike, keeping that creative freedom while making sure the lights stay on, you know?
Definitely, definitely. So where do we go from here? Are we all just stuck in our little echo chambers? Is there any hope for like good information in this world of KOLs and algorithms telling us what we want to hear?
Well, this last paper we're looking at, it actually offers a glimmer of hope. And it's a surprising source, to be honest. We're talking Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, really? Not exactly known for like charisma and hot takes.
I know, right? Not exactly the first place you'd think of. But Wikipedia's whole deal, crowdsourced, trying to be neutral, it actually gives us some good clues.
Okay, I'm listening.
So this paper talks about research showing that when you have Wikipedia articles edited by a diverse group of people, you know, different opinions, backgrounds, all that, those articles tend to be more neutral, more accurate overall.
So the more voices you have in the mix.
The better the information's likely to be. Seems that way, yeah. It's that whole iron sharpens iron idea.
Love that.
Right? When your ideas are constantly being challenged, you have to up your game. Be more rigorous. Check your facts. Be open to other ways of looking at things. And the paper argues this isn't just a Wikipedia thing. It can and should apply everywhere online.
I like that. So how do we take that Wikipedia model and apply it to like real life? How do we make sure we're getting good info from KOLs and not just getting played?
Well, you're not going to be editing their videos or anything.
And more is the pity sometimes.
Right. But we can be smarter about how we consume information. Like if you agree with absolutely everything a KOL says, maybe a red flag. Time to diversify your media diet.
Step outside that echo chamber.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get stuck in a loop just hearing what you want to hear.
It is. But seeking out different viewpoints, even if they're a little uncomfortable at first, that's where the growth is.
So true. Challenge those assumptions.
Yes. Another thing, pay attention to how information makes you feel. If you're constantly angry or like you're always right and everyone else is wrong, that strong emotion could be a sign you're just looking for confirmation, you know?
It's like if everyone you meet is a jerk.
You're the jerk. Exactly.
Okay, last one's going to sound obvious, but fact check.
Always.
Especially when a KOL is saying something super sensational, too good to be true, whatever. Don't just take their word for it.
A few minutes of research can make all the difference.
Truth. Well, this deep dive has been a trip. We covered the business side of influence, that whole echo chamber problem, even learned a thing or two from Wikipedia. Who knew?
Right.
But the big takeaway, we got to be more thoughtful online, more engaged, more critical about the information coming at us. What do you think? How do you handle all this KOL stuff? Hit us up on social media. Let us know your thoughts, your strategies, all that good stuff. Until next time, happy listening.